Hello guys, welcome back. This video tries to explain Jackie Andrade's experiment on doodling. This is a part of AS level psychology syllabus and ideally hope this will be useful to you. Please like if you do and do not forget to subscribe for more similar videos. Now let's get started. The paper by Jackie Andrade is called What Does Doodling Do? And you can find this paper online for free as well. So the question is, what is doodling? According to dictionary, it's simply, scribbling absent-mindedly. I'm sure we all have done it at some point, maybe while listening to a long, boring lecture or a seminar. But when you have a skill to draw, people can even turn it into a career. So I found this article online. There are people who doodle on badges and bags and greeting cards and whatnot, and then they turn it into a career. A controversy about doodling is whether doodling can predict your personality or not. I found this article by The Guardian which says, according to graphology, based on what kind of doodles you draw while bored, one can predict the personality of the doodler. I'm guessing it's based on the Freudian concept of tapping into the unconscious of a person, as this doodling happens, when you're bored and it is happening in a more automatic and subconscious way. The operational definition for doodling, or the kind of doodling that Andrade is interested in this particular study, is the process of aimlessly sketching patterns and figures which are totally unrelated to the primary task, which means that she's interested in the kind of doodling that we all do by listening to a lecture or scanning an audio recording, which happens as an automatic response or a spontaneous response to boredom. So that's a key word there. Now, the question that Jackie Andrade is trying to bring into our attention is about dual-task indifference, which happens when two tasks are performed at the same time. Researchers, they show that performance tend to decrease when some aspects, in certain aspects when you handle two things at the same time. But what Andrade is trying to say is that such performance decrements can be affected or moderated when the second task is mind-wandering or when it is happening at a subconscious level. It need not always decrease the performance. So this article urges that boredom should not be overlooked when it comes to, studying dual task processes, because it might have a different effect on performance. Andrade is trying to find out if doodling would aid concentration. That is, when one of the two tasks is spontaneous or automatic, like doodling, will it decrease or enhance concentration? Now, let's look at how they did it. They recorded a mock telephone conversation and they recorded it on a tape, and it was about 2.5 minutes long, and it was in a fairly monotone voice with 227 words per minute, and they kept it at a comfortable volume throughout. And who participated in it? They had 40 participants. They used 40 participants from the Cognitive and Brain Science Unit, which I assume is from her own university, which is Plymouth University, UK. The participants were paid some money, but there is no mention of how much it is. Now, they were randomly assigned into two groups, the control group and the experimental group. 20 each, right? And then the control group had 2 males and the experimental group had three males. But the thing is, there is a predominance of females in this study, which brings in gender bias, right? And when did they, for what did they need an experimental group? What was different between these groups? Both groups listened to the telephonic message. Both the groups attempted to recall the information from this message, but the difference was that only the experimental group was asked to doodle by listening to the telephonic message. The control group was given a sheet of, an A4 size sheet with lines to write the information from this message, from the telephonic message. While experimental group, they were given a pencil and an A4 size sheet with 1 centimeter diameter shapes. Each row had 10 shapes, and it was alternative rows of squares and circles. And it also had a 4.5 centimeter margin on the left side, in which people were supposed to write the target information. They were not supposed to write anything more. Both the groups were told the same instruction. So this was the instruction, and I have highlighted the important parts of the instruction. I'm going to play you a tape, and this tape is a conversation, a telephonic conversation, and you have to pretend that a friend is inviting you to a party. And the tape is rather dull, but you don't have to remember any of it. Just write down the names of people who will definitely or probably come to the party, and ignore the names of those who can't come. Okay, so this was the instruction, and it was given to both the groups, both the control group and the experimental group. So the experimental group was given a pencil, and they were asked to shade these shapes while listening to the tape. They were also told that it doesn't matter how quickly or neatly they do this. It is just for them to, to help them reveal boredom. That's it. Now, you might be thinking why these shapes were given to them. Why didn't they just allow the participants to doodle freely? So this is because they wanted the participants to not be conscious about the quality of the thing that they draw. Rather, they just wanted it to be automatic and spontaneous, hence the shapes. One thing to be noted is that there was definitely deception involved, because they were told that it's not a memory test, but they were also looking into how much they could remember later. So after the study, they are debriefing them and apologize for what happened and why they did it. Now, what did they measure? So half of them were asked to recall the names of partygoers and then the places, and the other half was asked to remember the places first and then the names of the partygoers. So this was to, counterbalance the recall order. Now let's look at how they scored it. There were a few things that they did to prevent scoring guesses. Mishearings, if there were any mishearings, they said Craig and then they heard Greg, they were given a score. And if they say new names, it was considered wrong, obviously. And there were some names that were involved as distractors, which to confuse the participants. Those were also considered wrong. If the response is unclear, it was simply ignored. And finally, to get the score, they subtracted the wrong answers from the correct answer. And what did they find? Average doodling rate was 36.3 printed shapes per person, and the correct response, or the correct names that what they write while listening to the tape, it was 6.9 for the control group, and experimental group was 7.7. And they did a man-Whitney EU test to see if there was a significant difference between the two groups, and they found that it was significant. And again, for the memory test, the control group gave much lesser a score than the experimental group. They did an ANOVA to see if it was significant, and they again found that the experimental group, or the doodling group, performed better in the memory test as well, which concludes that doodling enhances memory. So with this, I think I have covered the whole study. Please feel free to comment if you have any questions. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.